Hello everyone, welcome back to Wildcard Garage, and today we're talking about two-strokes. Man, love two-stroke engines. We ride them on snowmobiles, we ride them on dirt bikes, and I grew up watching them on 500 GP bikes, and they are very, very special engines. Two-strokes are very special engines. So I'm not an engineer, so I can't explain it in great detail, but essentially a two-stroke fires twice as often as a four-stroke engine. So all things being equal, a four-stroke to a two-stroke with a similar displacement, the two-stroke in theory should make twice as much horsepower. In addition to that, a two-stroke is generally quite a bit lighter of an engine because it doesn't have a camshaft and valves on top of the engine to control the intake gases coming in and the exhaust gases going out. It uses the piston and different ports going through it, etc., to control that. So, all things being equal, a two-stroke is more powerful and lighter than similar CC four-stroke. The kicker is that they burn oil, and apparently there's no way to get around the burning of oil part of it. The environmental part of it, I believe, is kind of what ultimately led to their demise. There was a period of time when there was quite a few two-stroke sport bikes, but slowly those tapered off, and they were raced in GP bikes up until 2002, so the 500 GP bikes, which was an incredible era of GP racing. Those bikes were extremely fast, raw, just wild. Like the days of Rainy, Schwantz, doing those guys racing those bikes, like some amazing scenes of motorcycle riding during that era. One of the reasons two-stroke big bore sport bikes are so desirable is that they're extremely rare. There's basically none of them available. Obviously the GP bikes of the era aren't exactly available. They do come up for sale every once in a while. Iconic have had a couple recently and they fetch big money. $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. So that's kind of out of the budget. There were a couple options for street legal bikes. There was the Suzuki RG500, which I was fortunate enough to ride up at Carl Kuster's earlier this summer, which was an incredible experience. And then Yamaha had their version, the RD or RZ500. It was relatively similar. The problem with both the RD and the RG is that they're a really cool engine, but they're in a pretty outdated chassis, so somewhat limited there. Other options out there, there's a couple of companies around the world that are building like one-off custom replica bikes. There's Costin in Australia and there's Tumoto in the UK. Those bikes are absolutely incredible. They're hand-built replica bikes, like every single piece basically is built to replicate a 500, and they typically start with a 500, like the Tumoto in the UK starts with an RG500, and then Costin in the Australia, they use a RZ500 as their base. There are a few options to put one of the 500 engines into a 250 GP style chassis, so people are putting them in the TZR 250 chassis or the RS250 Aprilia chassis or the Suzuki RGV 250 chassis, so that is an option for sure. I think, as you can probably tell from this though, there's only so many of these 500 engines out there, and that basically seems like the basis for all of the bikes I've just talked about. Another extremely cool bike is the Suter MMX 500. That bike is pretty incredible, carbon fiber, super trick, and probably the most advanced, like modern style two-stroke. But again, these are super limited and upwards of $100,000 to buy. So to sum it up, if you want a two-stroke big bore sport bike, there's very limited options and most of them are pretty expensive. But that might be about to change. We've heard some rumblings of a company up in Canada called BRC that are working on a 600 V-twin two-stroke that goes into an R6 chassis, which seems like a pretty cool thing because you'd get the modern chassis of an R6 and then you get a two-stroke engine in it. And I'm hoping it should be a little bit more affordable than the options that I've talked about previous. So today we're gonna do something slightly different. We haven't done this before. It'd be almost like a podcast style thing, like without the headphones. I don't have the headphones and the cool mic, so bear with me. They might not sound and look as perfect as it could, but we're gonna do our best with what we have. And today we're gonna get the CEO of BRC on a call, and he's gonna talk to us about what they've got going with this new 600 engine. So really excited to learn more about this engine, and yeah, we'll see what they've got to say about it. Awesome. Well, you're here with Riley from BRC, and thank you so much for agreeing to get on this call. And yeah, you got some exciting stuff going here.
Yeah, we really do. We've been in business since 1996. The face of the business has changed over the years, and now we're able just to focus purely on the motorsports division of the business. We've always been involved with manufacturing, engineering, and we started designing our first engines in 2000, which
Okay.
was an inline supercart engine. We call it the BRC 250 FE.
Okay.
And the idea there was to bring Aprilia's two-stroke technology into the inline supercart world, as the Aprilia RSV, RSW engine of the time is basically just a V'd version of the inline. So the principles
Okay.
of the engine are the same. Tandem firing engine where the crankshafts counter rotate, balancing each other out. They rise and fall together, and thereby they act as each other's counterbalance.
Okay.
Okay, so you can end up with a very smooth engine. And just like the RSV, RSW, it was a 90-degree engine, but those pistons rose and fell together as well.
Okay.
Okay, and it's a very simple way of having a very smooth engine and not robbing horsepower by extra balancing shafts and what have you.
Sure.
The
Sure.
only downside to that design is that the power pulses are very, very strong. And so it can be very hard on clutches and transmissions.
Okay.
On the flip side of that, from a rider's perspective, it's like when the 500s went to the Big Bang and they, rather than having rapid power pulses, they had big power pulse, then a long pause, and a big power pulse.
Yeah.
And that allowed the rubber to grip the irregularities of the road surface,
Yeah.
and acceleration
For
was
sure.
improved. So,
So I'm familiar with you guys from the snow business. So I'm a snowmobile photographer, and I've been around a few of your engines, the big bore single cylinder engines that guys run in snow bikes, etc.
yeah.
This new project that you've got going is kind of a new venture into road going vehicles with the R600.
Yeah, so I'll go backwards a little bit. So we did the supercart engine, we did another kart engine, we had a 125 gearbox engine for the kart in a prototype. The rules of North America changed, so we didn't produce it. And we learned that, the karting market, as cool as it is, there's not enough people doing it. And so for us to stay involved with two strokes and two-stroke engine design, which is clearly our passion, I had to come up with something more mainstream. And at that time, my riding group, I was an off-road woods rider, and we were all riding KTM 300s. And we decided, hey, wouldn't it be cool to build up a CR 500 AF? Everybody's doing it.
Sure.
And, as kids, as you can tell, I'm not the youngest guy anymore. And I got the gray hair, but when we were kids, the gnarliest bike you could think about throwing a leg over was a Honda CR 500.
Yeah.
And so, we got multiple bikes now and some disposable income, I guess, let's build one. And so, with all the resources that I had available to me at that time, we were a 16 CNC machine shop and 47 people and,
Oh
you
wow.
know, engineering department. And so I had a ton of resources. And so go ahead and build this CR500 AF. So use the O1 CR250 chassis, very, very stiff chassis, not recommended for the conversion, but we didn't know anything.
Sure.
So rebuilt the engine, put it in the chassis. It's about a 2-year build and $40,000 later. And, you call your buddies up for a ride and, we got a dozen guys to come out. Usually it's two or three, right?
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to have a swing a leg over the CR500. Anyway, so I ride the bike for the first 10 minutes and I came off it very, very disappointed. and everybody else has a go, and we'll get back to the trucks, and nobody had much good to say about it. It was very brutal, and so it
Yeah.
got nicknamed Brutus. But the power delivery, the vibration was the biggest problem, and it was just wrong. Suspension didn't work that good, even though it was valved and sprung for woods. All these problems, and so get a tape measure out, start measuring up the engine bay of the KTM, and we measure up the Honda engine, and I think that a 500cc size engine could fit into the KTM chassis. So I go to work on Monday and I talk to my design engineer, Steve Buffle, who's been with me for over 20 years, and an extremely talented guy. Anyway, so we go and I say, this is what I want to do. I want to build a counterbalanced 500cc engine that reuses the internal componentry from the KTM, because they're very good components, and it bolts into the chassis without any fabrication to make it
Okay.
easier for people to do. He thought I was nuts, and I said, "Well, I'm your boss, so you're going to do it." And to which he did, and did an amazing job for our first try. And that was about 2015-ish, I would say. And
Okay.
from there on, we found that the rest of the world, there's a bunch of guys like me and gray hair and remember a 500 that
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
one.
yeah.
And so since then, we've gone from the first generation of KTM to the 17 and 20 to 23 model, carbureted, then TPI. We came up with our own TBI conversion for the TPI bikes. As we were winding that up, it made sense to do a kit for the YZ250 because the engine is compatible, it's the same engine from 1999 to now.
Sure, sure.
And so as of 2026, we've got 27 years of compatibility. So that's what really allowed us to focus. The volume of the engine kits that we were doing allowed us to focus on the two strokes. And so we tailored our company to do that. And we're really enjoying it. So then we came full circle and built a CR500 counterbalance engine. We built
Okay.
10 prototypes, put that into the original bike, and it absolutely transformed that bike. The suspension works. It was smooth. You could ride it for 5 hours at a go. It was awesome. So, you know, clapping ourselves on the back and having fun.
Yeah.
We've always been into road racing, whether it's been from karting, motorcycles. We've been avid sport bike riders since like 1989.
Yeah, yeah.
Have owned everything that you can imagine, um, and have a good understanding of the sport bike genre. Um,
Sure.
I've owned a number of Grand Prix motorcycles. I really enjoy taking them apart, putting them together, understanding the engineering. I wouldn't call myself a world-class rider by any means, but I have world-class fun for sure.
Yeah.
So we, what can we do? What's another product? And so we chose the R6 Yamaha because the chassis has stayed the same for so many years, and the engine. So your engine pickup points and what have you. It's very important that with our kits that the fabrication, if any, is left to a minimum for the client, for the end user. Um, Not everybody has the experience or the resources to do it and to do it right. And the last thing we want to do is have something unreliable or not safe. So the R6 Yamaha, our kit is designed to fit 2007 through to current, which I believe they put a freeze on the R6 in 2021.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and with the kit, again, with the mentality of reuse what's good, what works, what makes sense. And a lot of people may not know this, but the R6 chassis was actually derived from the 2002 YZR 500 Grand Prix bike. So it
Okay.
shares a lot of the same geometry. And that's why that bike has been one of the best handling motorcycles in World Supersport for a long time. So what can we do for the road market? Okay, we got the R6, we've got chassis compatibility, we've got component compatibility that spans a wide number of years.
Sure.
Um, what do we do?
Aftermarket support on the chassis, and I mean, there's a
Oh,
bazillion of
it's
those bikes out there.
it's endless, right? And over the years, the more engines that we do, and problem solving that we've had to overcome is your understanding becomes that much more refined and that much better. And we don't profess to be masters of two strokes, but we're always learning.
Sure.
Okay. And we're trying to apply all the knowledge that we've gained over the years into the R600 to make it as close to a Grand Prix two-stroke experience that we can, emulating and hopefully besting the Honda NSR 500V,
Okay.
which any journalist that rode that bike at the end of the season all commented that what an incredible street bike it would make
Yeah.
because of its grunty, torquey nature.
Sure.
We've been asked about building a V4 500, and we can do it. But the magnitude of engineering and expense that the V4 is the reason why the Suter MMX 500 is 140,000 euro.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have the Ronax in there, and it limits your end user market. And
Yeah.
so with the R600, by reusing so much of the original engine componentry, and by so much, it's actually not a ton considering four-stroke into a two-stroke, but the transmission is reused, the
Okay.
clutch is reused, the water pump is reused. I think that's about it. We reused the clutch inspection cover. One of the funny things, we're down the path of designing the engine. We take an engine apart, and then we realize, oh, this is unconventional for us. Is the transmission of the R6 doesn't use what we typically have seen, which is needle roller bearings in the transmission. They
Yeah.
use hardened bushings, and then an oil pump that creates an oil film that the hardened bushings ride on.
Yeah.
So we're like, whoa, okay, how do we solve this problem of now we have to incorporate the oil pump, the R6's oil pump? And so this project has been hatched like 10 years ago. And, we had to stop and start and the development, the design, but we're trying to knock off all of the nuances and specifics required. And some of these engineering problems did not have the easiest of solutions.
Sure. Yeah, I
So,
could see that. So basically, you're starting with an R6.
yep.
You're gonna pull the transmission out, clutch, a few other parts, and then you guys are gonna supply cases, cylinders, pistons, rods. Are those all custom parts or are any of those off-the-shelf parts from other vehicles?
Because this engine is designed to be a Grand Prix experience, and using today's technology, which has definitely evolved since 2002 when they stopped doing the 500s, 2009 being the last year of the two strokes in MotoGP. They are custom components. So the crankshaft that we provide is a bespoke crankshaft of our design.
Okay.
The connecting rod, same thing. We can't get the right length of connecting rod off the shelf anywhere with the proper big end and small end diameters. We are using an off-the-shelf piston. We try to design our engines so that the consumable items of the engine can be bought around the globe, so that customers in Europe and Australia and what have you don't have to come to BRC in Canada for every single thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
so yes, custom designed cylinders, and this is an early aluminum 3D printed cylinder.
Okay.
And if you're a two-stroke person, you'll notice some very different shapes in this cylinder. We've done a lot, and the cylinder actually that we're producing after further study and research does not look exactly like this on the base anymore. It actually looks more like an Aprilia RSA, RSW type port layout, which this is similar. You've got the A port, the B port, and the C port. So we've changed the B port dramatically in what we're producing. But like I was saying, in two-stroke design, in the last 15 years, the majority of the gains have come down to thermodynamics.
Okay.
And this engine here on the exhaust duct, we're bringing water in through the exhaust duct, and it'll actually go into the exhaust header flange, and then it will exit. Uh, Typically, on most performance engines, you're seeing that the water will come in under the exhaust port. So that's
Sure.
your coolest water after your radiator, and take the heat away from the exhaust port. And then it'll come around the transfers. It'll go up the cylinder and then across the head and out. Well, you'll notice that we have our water inlet on the intake side. And
Okay.
the rationale for this, and this is not stuff that we have come up with from our own ideas. It's been from the basically the cream of the crop two-stroke tuners around the globe that are still involved with development. And they all agree that let's keep that intake charge that's coming up through your transfers as dense as possible. So your coolest water coming across the cylinder, okay, to the exhaust port.
Yep.
And this was kind of our development internally is like, well, if I've already heated this up, I don't want to pass it back up the cylinder and out the head
Yeah.
is I want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing is we're getting rid of it. And then we have other cooling for the head. And this should have the densest charge cylinder because as you know, a two-stroke, the incoming fuel and oxygen goes out into the pipe and
Yeah.
then gets stuffed back in.
Back. Yeah.
So keeping this area cool helps that pressure wave coming back to have a denser charge,
Sure.
thereby making more power. And we're talking incremental changes,
Yeah. Yeah.
not, we've just redeveloped or the output potential of a two-stroke. We haven't. It's just incremental change.
Yeah. Like.
Servo controlled exhaust valve. Uh, I don't know if the camera will pick up the port layout.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a 5-port intake and 3-port exhaust. The sub-exhaust ports will have power valve blade control. So with the servo, which we reuse from the R6, that will run the power valve. And you'll have a very, very broad spread of power. The simulations, we do a lot of simulation with EngMod 2T, and the simulations are showing about 160 horsepower right now.
Oh wow. How are you going to fuel it?
So, in keeping with the Grand Prix experience of yesteryear, simple to start with for sure. Carburetors, there's nothing wrong with carburetors. Most riders ride in the same area.
Yeah.
So to have a fuel injection system, which, the Suter engine was totally designed around their EFI, and it was unfortunate that it took them a while to get their EFI sorted. I think when they debuted the bike at the Isle of Man with Ian Lauder, we were all expecting it just to be amazing. And the bike it sounded great, but they had issue. And it's just the complexity of the fuel injection. If you're to go onto our YouTube channel, BRC Racing Canada, you'll see, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, we put fuel injection onto our BRC 250 supercard engine.
Okay.
It took us 3 months to get to the same power levels that we were getting with the Delorto VHSD 42 millimeter Grand Prix carburetors.
Okay.
And we could make no more.
Yeah.
It did require less fuel, but we weren't it wasn't our main mandate to have the best fuel mileage.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about the riding experience.
Yeah.
And so to add fuel injection to this would add tremendously to the cost of development and engineering, and again, tremendously to the cost of the kit.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So we'll start with carburetors.
what type of carbs do you think you'll run on it?
Basically, there's a whole bunch of good carburetors out there on the planet. None of them are the proper size for a Grand Prix 300cc cylinder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the Mikuni, the Kian PWK 38 carburetor that comes on a Yamaha YZ250 is a phenomenal carburetor. Delorto has a number of offerings of highly adjustable carburetors. Mikuni again. So you're going to have your normal Kian, Mikuni, Delorto variants
Yeah.
available. We're not sure if because those components are available globally, we're not sure if it makes sense to bring them to Canada, put them in the box, and then send them out with the
Back.
kit.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're weighing that.
Yeah.
Include carburetors, don't include carburetors. We'll definitely be including settings so people
Right.
aren't, lost in how to find it out. What
What about exhaust?
exhaust? I tell you, the routing proper sized exhaust in that chassis. We thought, oh, we're putting a twin two-stroke in there. We're going to have acres of room for everything. We don't.
Yeah.
These cylinders are big. They have to be big for the transfer ports and whatnot. And Steve spent probably a month um, routing with some really cool software, is getting the exhaust pipes to route correctly. And I can show you a screenshot. Um, so,
Oh, wow.
you know, it,
Yeah.
it's, and so you'll see, oh, it's poking through the bodywork. Yes, we're aware. And yes, we'll be supplying a lower. It's quite a snake and a puzzle to do.
Yeah, yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so exhaust will 100% be supplied with the kit.
With the kit. Okay.
Absolutely.
You have any idea what this thing's going to cost?
10 years ago, the target price with the cost of living and doing business was 20,000 Canadian dollars. It's too early to say that that number is changing, but I would bet it's going to change somewhat.
Yeah,
Um, it's a global effort to do these things. And, we have parts coming from Europe, some parts from Asia.
sure.
Um,
Is
it's,
the
it's a
thought that you guys will sell a complete engine, or will you sell the components and then the owner has to put the R6 transmission into it?
In staying with our current methodology, like we do with our other kits, is you require a donor. So you take your donor bike apart
Yeah,
and you assemble the reused parts into our engine cases.
gotcha.
One of the coolest developments of this R6 or R600 is the fact that the transmission is going to be a true cassette transmission.
Okay.
So you'll be able to inspect your transmission and also use the available kit ratios if you have them. And there's some other companies that do make alternate ratios for the R6.
Yeah,
You'll be able to use that on your BRC R600 and be able to do that trackside if you
yeah, yeah,
wanted to.
yeah.
So
That's pretty cool.
again, bringing a GP level
Sure.
of, of machine to the world.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm super excited about this. I'm a huge fan of two strokes and being around snowmobiles and enduro dirt bikes. Like I ride two strokes regularly, and it really bums me out that the street bike technology kind of stopped, like everybody stopped developing two strokes years ago. And they've kind of marched on in these little niche markets off to the sides. But now that it's coming back to sport bikes, I'm super excited about.
I think we're like the only ones that are trying to bring it back. Well, I shouldn't say that. No, you've got Reimer in Holland who's done a
Yeah.
fantastic job. He's a great friend of ours, and he actually does some machine work for us. He's an
Oh, okay.
unbelievable machinist. And of course, he's got a very good understanding of two stroke. So we don't have to explain anything to him. And, we've learned from him as well. So,
Sure.
um, yeah, Richard's doing an amazing job with his engine project for the Aprilia RSV 1000.
Yeah.
And, definitely, he's also set the bar very high.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. For sure.
but
No, it's going to be super cool. How soon do you think you'll have running prototypes?
I was talking with Steve, the design engineer, because it's he's the bottleneck at the moment. And I said, so 6 months.
Yeah.
And for the first time in years, he said, yeah,
Six
should
months?
be should be done in 6 months. So we would have been done a lot further, but I had pushed forever to make a parallel twin,
Okay.
as my ADHD brain and OCD-ness likes the symmetry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a really cool engine at the end of the Grand Prix era that KTM did that Mika Kallio was a rider with, was one of the riders anyways. He had the most success, and that was the KTM FRR 250. And
Okay.
it was a parallel twin, I believe, designed by Harold Bartle, who is a legend in the MotoGP two-stroke arena. Um, and it was just a really cool symmetrical engine and chassis. Basically, a modern day RZ 350 or Banshee
Yeah, yeah,
engine,
for
but with
sure.
some really cool technology. Anyways, so you get down the path of designing the cylinders and whatnot, and there's not enough room in the chassis. It was too wide. We started to make way too many compromises just to get it done.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, we had to draw a line in the sand and say, no, this is getting away from what our goal was here, which is to have something that is properly purpose built, Grand Prix esque design. Um, and so there's too many compromises
yeah,
with the
yeah.
parallel version. So
Gotcha.
back to the drawing board. So that only cost us 2 years of development.
Yeah, yeah. Well, keep me posted on how it goes. I'm just down in Idaho Falls, and you just pick up the phone. If you've got a running prototype, I've got a GS. I'll be there in like 10 hours.
Yeah, perfect. I know
So,
where you're at.
um,
Well, I remember, and I owned an 86 RZ 500.
okay.
Okay. And the European world, I think, calls them the RD 500.
Yeah, yeah,
Of course, there you had the Suzuki Gamma, RG
yeah,
500 Gamma.
yeah,
Um, and back in the day, I was like, those were incredible bikes. I think the next bikes that came out that really floated our boat, I guess it was earlier than that, was the CBR 900 Fireblade and the Ducati 916.
yeah, yeah,
But the two strokes were still iconic. And it's just being a two stroke enthusiast, owning some two stroke GP bikes and what have you. Um, man, I'm just like, man, I have to do this in my lifetime. I want to see this before if I can't ride it or I'm not here anymore.
for sure.
Somebody's got to do this, and we've got the tenacity to get it done.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I just think there's a lot of guys that are of that 40 to 65-year-old vintage that remember the thrill of a two stroke.
Oh, 100%. And they're great bikes too. I came up to Canada this summer and visited Carl Kuster. He's a
Mhm.
Ski-Doo rider, and he has a few RG 500s. And I rode the RG, and I was amazed at how good of a motorcycle it is. Like super torquey, but it revs out nice. It's awesome, but the problem is they're 20 to $40,000, and they're still a pretty antiquated chassis by today's standards.
Oh yeah.
So to have something like this in an R6 chassis that's like in the realm of two strokes, affordable, is really pretty exciting.
Sport bike pricing, leader bike pricing, which is basically the category that we'd be in with, has gone crazy. As you know, they're like $30,000
Yeah.
plus. That's where they start in Canadian pesos, by the way. Um, and so you're going like, okay, so I got a 20 to $25,000 R600 kit. Okay, so I just threw out a dart.
Yeah.
And I've got a $4,000 to $6,000 R6,
Yeah.
and I can have 160 horsepower and weigh 315 pounds in street trim.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you kidding me?
Yeah. For sure.
Um, because anybody that's a rider knows that if you have less weight is right, your handling improves exponentially, your braking distances improve exponentially. No, we don't make 240 horsepower like a Ducati V4 RS.
Sure.
Um, but you don't need it.
No. And then
And
there's just the whole like nostalgic feel of the bike and
oh,
how, I mean, it's pretty hard to put a price on that for sure. So,
well, it's like your woods bikes. He's 9 out of 10 riders that we pass in the woods are riding a KTM two stroke,
oh yeah, 100%.
and the four strokes are awesome engineered pieces of machinery. They
Yeah.
absolutely are. But that fun factor, and this is going back to snow bikes, is for me, we can build up a 450 or a 501, but my BRC 500, you have to work at a two stroke harder in the snow. You have to be
Yeah.
on the clutch a little bit. But when you are and you ride it like you stole it, it's way more fun. And
Yeah.
I'm doing it for fun. You
Yeah.
know, the four-stroke bikes are an incredible piece of equipment. The two-stroke, that puts a bigger smile on my face, and that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. That's awesome. So where's the best place for people to keep up on this project and find out more about it?
Our BRC Racing Facebook page is and our Instagram, BRC Racing Canada, are the places that we announce all of our latest information.
Okay.
We are getting better at posting to YouTube. There's some cool stuff under BRC Racing Canada on YouTube that actually has some of our historical builds of things and stuff. So people
Yeah.
might find that interesting. And of course, our website, which is brcracing.ca. There's some information on our waiting list or information list as it is
Okay.
right now. They can fill out one of the Order One Today forms and give me their contact information. I put them on the list. There's zero responsibility to move past that list,
Yeah.
but we will be using that list to send out information, specific information about the prototypes, about the production. When we do come up with, okay, we can have engine kits about this date, and we've done our testing and everything's gone well, we'll be taking 50% deposits. The first guys with money in will go to the top of the list, and the engine kits will be shipped in that order of first come, first serve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay. Perfect. Well, I really appreciate it. And yeah, tell Steve thanks for all his hard work on this. I don't know Steve personally, but I believe he's a gsx-r slingshot guy, right? He has a slingshot.
yeah, he's always wanted an RK, an 89
Okay.
RK.
Yeah.
And so now he's built some wild bikes in his day.
Yeah.
And we're both the same vintage, so we remember the bikes from years ago.
Sure, sure.
And so he's building up his version of an RK right now.
Very cool.
Um, it's got like an oh 05,000 cc swing arm on it and front end,
Yeah.
with RK bodywork. He's got a Bandit 1200 engine in it.
Oh, heck
Um,
yeah.
very,
That's
very cool.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I keep pushing him. I'm like, get the paint on it, get the paint on there.
Get it done,
Because
yeah.
the RK has that very distinguished color scheme and solo tail section.
That's super cool. I just finished a 92 slingshot track bike, so it's 95% done. I was able to do a few laps at Miller in Utah the last track day of the year, and I've got a few things to tidy up through the winter, and then it should be game on for next year. So pretty excited.
Very cool. He took I had built a YZF 750 with FZR 1000 motor,
Oh, that was when it was for sale, right?
and Steve, I gave it to Steve because I wasn't doing anything with it, and he resurrected it from the dead, and it's got really cool parts on it. You know,
Yeah.
attack, triple clamps, and rear sets and link. The front wheel apparently came from Wayne Rainey's YZR 500.
Oh, wow.
Some really cool forks on it. Anyways, so he goes out to Area 51 track days, and you got the guys with their new Ducatis and BMWs and traction control and auto blipping.
Yeah.
And that engine it was built as a 1070 and a key and FCR flat slide carbs and so on and so forth. He goes, I was with them off the turns, no problem. You
That's
know,
awesome.
this old dinosaur of a bike was hanging with these latest and greatest stuff, but
Awesome.
anyways, so
That's what
yeah.
we like to hear. Cool. Well, we're about to get kicked off for this meeting. Apparently, there's a 40-minute Zoom call meeting unless you pay them some money. And but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time. And yeah, best of luck on the rest of the project.
Thanks for your interest. Good luck on your page and your channel.
Yeah,
And anytime you want to do it again as we progress, be happy to jump on again.
we'll do it in person next time. You just let me know when that prototype is running.
It'll be on our dyno. Let you know.
Awesome. Thanks, Riley.
Thank you guys very much. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.